Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Middle Country Public Library podcast, an episode filled with peace and love and music.
Peace, love, and music.
And if you're listening, you heard his voice. If you're watching, you've seen him already. It's Jim Ward, and that can only mean one thing.
This Week in History.
And it's a special This Week in History.
Yes.
Because we've done this before.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing it again. We're going to concentrate on one thing that happened, a big thing, that happened this week in history.
55 years ago.
It's the 55th anniversary of this event, a 3-day event that happened, and perhaps you've already guessed.
Some of you might have been there.
Some of you might have been there. Some of you might have started there.
That would be Woodstock.
Woodstock.
Yes.
1969.
1969.
And it was what, August 15th?
August 15th to August 18th.
That's right. So the day this episode is coming out in 2024, it's the 50th anniversary.
Yep. Isn't that something?
All right. So, Jim, tell us about Woodstock.
So Woodstock, and I'm going to cite my sources here. We got the History Channel, I'd like to thank.
Nice. Thank you, History Channel. Thank you, Biography.
Biography.com, and also the website for Bethel Woods Center for the Arts.
Oh, that's right.
Because it was in Bethel, New York.
Yeah, Bethel, New York.
Yep.
Yes, and they still do stuff up there.
Yeah, they still have, I guess they have like a stage where it occurred, and they have performances still. They got some sort of monument or plaque, I think.
I'm sure they have a monument up there.
Devoted to it.
Cool.
So it was billed as an Aquarian experience, 3 days of peace and music.
Peace and music.
And it was started by 4 men, all 27 years of age or under.
And meanwhile, us 27-year-olds, no.
I definitely was not thinking about this at 27, but it was an investment opportunity for 4 of them: John Roberts, Joel Rosenman, Artie Kornfeld, and Michael Lang.
Okay.
And Lang had actually organized the Miami Music Festival in 1968. And Kornfeld was the youngest vice president at Capitol Records, so he had, I guess, the contacts for.
Had the contacts.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then Roberts and Rosenman were New York entrepreneurs involved in building a Manhattan recording studio.
Okay.
And they formed Woodstock Ventures Incorporated and decided to host a music festival.
Of course, they formed a corporation.
Sure.
Yes.
And do you know who the first band was that they got as
that they signed?
The big name talent?
Who was the big name talent?
Creedence Clearwater Revival.
CCR.
Yeah.
Nice.
Ironically enough, they're not actually from the bayous. They are not from the bayous. They're from like California or something.
You guys are just liars.
I mean, I always thought that they were like from that part of the country.
You know that band from the bayou? They're just liars, aren't they?
So
the joke comes back all the time, guys.
But the initial plan for Woodstock was to be held at Howard Mills Industrial Park in Wallkill, New York.
Okay.
However, the town officials there got spooked and backed out of the deal. They passed a law that eliminated any possibility of holding the concert on their turf.
Because of that, right? They heard it was coming and they passed a law.
Yeah, I guess they were like worried about logistics or so. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what spooked them. It was
an interesting, well, I'm sure you're going to talk about what happened. So.
Yeah. So 49-year-old dairy farmer Max Yasgur offered to rent part of his land in the White Lake area in Bethel, New York for the festivities.
For the event.
And near the Catskills.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm sorry. Do you want to say something?
No, I was just. I'm keep going.
All right.
I'm excited about this.
All right. So, with the venue and the talent secured, they turned to logistics.
Okay.
Fencing, entrance gates, ticket booths. Initially, they were apparently selling early tickets that you can get at a discount. And they were also setting up the performers' pavilion, concession stands, bathrooms, medical tents. But by the time people started arriving a couple days before, the fencing, the gates, the ticket booths were still not completed yet.
So guess what?
They made it free. They made it free.
And yes, the initial investment, I guess, and the hope that they were going to make money kind of went away.
Which kind of stinks for them when you think about it.
It does.
I mean, they spent all this money for it, and they didn't really get anything out of it. But
I have to assume now they get something out of it now.
Yeah,
right? If someone wants to use their logos or something, they got to get something. Karma will take care of them.
So they made it a free event. Originally, about 50,000 people were expected, but by August 13th, at least that number was already camped out on location, and over 100,000 tickets had been pre-sold.
Wow.
And that, which kind of stinks if you pre-bought them, because
and now you get there and it's free. Everybody's letting everybody in.
And I forget I have the
although I have to assume if it was a physical ticket and you had the physical ticket and you kept the physical ticket because they weren't collecting tickets, maybe those are worth something.
That's probably on eBay right now.
Yes.
Sure.
If you're watching on YouTube and you have a physical ticket or you went to Woodstock, please let us know in the comments below.
That'd be very.
And you know what else they should do? They should hit the subscribe button.
Subscribe.
We have great stuff happening on this channel, so hit the subscribe button. And if you've liked everything up to this point, you can hit the like button. Yep. We'll wait until the end.
We'll plug it again. So an estimated 1 million people descended on Woodstock. So its organizers scrambled to add more facilities. Highways and local roads came to a standstill, and many concert goers simply abandoned their cars because they couldn't even really get close.
World's
otherwise.
Biggest parking lot.
So eventually, about 500,000 people actually reached the venue.
Okay.
And, they were a diverse audience. They kind of reflected the changing times. A lot of them were the hippies that felt alienated by society.
Yeah.
And, at this time, the country was deep into the controversial Vietnam War.
Yes.
You had a lot of the civil rights movement activities happening at that time. So it was a period of unrest and protest. And this kind of was like the opportunity for people to just escape. And
they escaped all right.
And it was to spread the message of unity and peace.
Yes, and I think they succeeded.
I think they did succeed.
I think they succeeded.
Yeah. Although the crowd at Woodstock, they experienced bad weather, muddy conditions, lack of food, water, adequate sanitation,
dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
But the vibe, according to our friends at the History Channel, it was harmonious.
Harmonious.
Who would have thought?
So let me tell you something about this. I think about this a lot, actually. And I think a lot about the music festivals, right? I'm not built for that. No.
I don't think I would have survived.
I would not have survived. They would have found me in a tent somewhere, sprawled out dead or something like that.
Dear.
No, really, I would not have survived. Just not having like bathrooms,
Yeah, no.
Just being sweaty because it was the summer. So
my God, it must have been brutal.
Sweaty and dirty and all that kind of stuff. And people, I'm sure, smelled.
Oh, yeah.
Because
you're out there for 3 days.
No one's taking a shower.
Yeah.
There's no showers going on in Woodstock.
No. But they believe the hippies were simply living out their mantra of making love, not war.
Making love, not war.
And let's see, safety and security stuff. So there were volunteer doctors, EMTs, nurses. Sure. They manned the medical tents. Most of the injuries were just minor things like food poisoning or
just a little minor food poisoning.
Well, I guess it's not as bad compared to what it could have been. But wounded
I ate that strange-looking cookie I should not have eaten. That's strange.
I'm sure there were a bunch of those there.
Plenty of those.
And then it's widely reported that 8 women experienced miscarriages.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I never knew that.
And I'm sure there were. Was it also reported that there were actually births at?
Well, let me see. I thought it mentioned something about that.
I'm sure someone was born at Woodstock.
One teenager died after being run over by a tractor.
Oh, my goodness.
And another person died of a drug-related death.
Just one.
Yeah, it doesn't say anything about anyone being born there, but security was limited since off-duty officers were banned, and it's estimated that there were no more than a dozen officers for 500,000 people. So Can you imagine that?
Lawlessness,
complete
in
lawlessness.
Bethel Woods.
Oh my goodness. And then let's see. So we have the Woodstock performers here.
Okay.
Let's see what we got.
So you're going to tell us about the performers, and then later I'm going to tell you about people who were invited or missed their connection to go to do that, because I found that pretty interesting.
That's got to be very interesting.
All right. Who performed?
So there were 32 musicians, combination of local and world famous talent.
Very good.
At around 5 p.m. on Friday, August 15th, Richie Havens took the stage and played a 45-minute set. He was followed by an unscheduled blessing by yoga guru, and I'm not even sure.
Don't even try.
Not even going to try.
What was it? Swami, like a Swami, right?
Siri Swami Satchidananda.
Yeah.
I don't want to butcher it. I'm sorry.
You nailed it. You hit it out of the park, Jimmy.
The other performers that on day one were Bert Summers, Sweetwater, Melanie. Some of these I never even heard of. Tim Harden.
You know what? You might probably haven't heard of them, but I'm sure you've heard them.
Probably. Yeah. A lot of times I know the songs.
Yeah, exactly.
And not so much who the people were.
Exactly.
And then you have Ravi Shankar, Arlo Guthrie. I've heard of. Joan Baez.
Yes.
Baez famously played the end of her set in a torrential downpour, and I believe she was pregnant at the.
There you go. Maybe she was the one who had the baby on stage.
Oh, day one wrapped up at around 2 a.m. on August 16th.
Okay.
Day two began around 12:15 p.m. And the lineup there were, again, I don't know all of them, but Quill, Country Joe McDonald, John Sebastian, Keith Hartley Band, Santana. Everyone knows Santana.
You've heard, yeah.
Yeah, the Incredible String Band, and Canned Heat.
Okay.
Oh, we got more. Hold on.
Yeah. You've heard a Canned Heat song before.
Have I?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure
I'll play it after the show.
Okay. Maybe we can dub it over somehow.
No, then we'll get demonetized and they'll pull the copyright.
That's true. We don't want that.
Not that we're making money, but they'll pull the video.
Then you have Mountain, the Grateful Dead,
the Grateful Dead.
I mean, the Grateful Dead, yeah. And then the first major talent to sign with them, Creedence Clearwater Revival, Janis Joplin, Sly and the Family Stone. This was actually,
that was a big day.
That was a big day. The Who, Jefferson Airplane. Day three around 2 p.m. That's when it began. Joe Cocker was the first to perform, and then you had Country Joe and the Fish. 10 years after, one just called The Band. You familiar?
Yeah,
with
The Band,
them?
of course.
Oh. Johnny Winter.
With the band? Don't do that, please. Don't show my age.
Johnny Winter.
Yes.
Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. Paul Butterfield Blues Band. Sha-Na-Na.
That's the weird one.
And Jimi Hendrix.
Did you know Sha-Na-Na played at Woodstock?
I can't really say who Sha-Na-Na is.
Oh yeah, again with the showing his age.
I mean, literally, when you say Sha-Na-Na, I'm thinking of the Brady kids sing Sha-Na-Na.
Wow.
So let's see. Hendrix was the last musician to perform at Woodstock. Rain delays prevented him from taking the stage until early Monday morning. And by the time he went on, the crowd had actually thinned to about 25,000 people.
Oh, my goodness.
And
was that the morning he played the national anthem?
I believe it was, yeah. And then now I have here a list of musicians who declined to perform.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to go... yes.
Similar?
It's similar, yes. May I?
You may, please.
Okay, so here we go. These are folks who were invited and either declined or were unable to because they missed some connection or whatnot. Did you know that the Beatles were invited?
Were they?
Yes, they were recording Abbey Road at the time.
Oh, wow.
Obviously on the verge of breaking up, unfortunately.
Oh.
Do you know where the Beatles officially signed off the contract, like the end of the Beatles? You know where John Lennon signed that?
Ooh, like to end their... to
end the Beatles. Yeah, do you know where he signed it?
Like
where he was on vacation.
What city?
He was on vacation. You know where he was?
Abbey Road.
No, he was in Walt Disney World.
Was he really? I should have known coming from you.
Yes, exactly. So they were invited, and they were not an option, obviously, if they were recording.
Yeah.
So they actually invited John Lennon and the Plastic Ono Band, but because of his position on Vietnam and the 1968 drug bust in England, Richard Nixon and the U.S. government reportedly did not want him in the country.
Wow, how about that?
So no John Lennon at Woodstock.
That's really sad.
The Jeff Beck Group, they were invited, but they disbanded prior to Woodstock. He said, "I deliberately broke the group up before Woodstock,
so that they couldn't go to Woodstock."
So they're going to go to Woodstock. Let's see who you might know. The Byrds. They were invited but chose not to participate, believing that Woodstock would be no different from any of the other music festivals that summer.
Or do they regret that?
Yeah, exactly. Chicago. You know Chicago, the band Chicago.
Yeah.
Okay. They had been initially signed to play Woodstock, but they had a contract with concert promoter Bill Graham, which you may or may not know. Bill Graham is a huge concert promoter, which allowed him to move their concerts at the Fillmore West. He rescheduled some of the dates to August 17th, thus forcing them to back out of the concert. So they had a previous engagement at that point. The Doors were considered.
Doors,
but canceled at the last moment. Bob Dylan.
Oh, Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan lived in the town of Woodstock.
Oh, my God.
But he never seriously negotiated to appear.
Wow.
He literally probably could have just walked from his house.
That's amazing.
Who else? The Guess Who were invited.
Who was that?
The Guess Who.
Guess Who?
The Guess Who.
The Guess Who, not the Who?
Not the Who. They declined. Iron Butterfly, we were talking about this before we started.
Oh, yeah.
They were booked to appear, and they were even listed on the Woodstock poster for the Sunday performance, but they could not perform because they were, as many people are, and many times, were stuck at LaGuardia Airport.
It's inevitable.
Let's see who else you might know. Jethro Tull.
Oh, yeah, Jethro Tull.
Declined. They knew that it would be a big event, but they did not want to go because he did not like hippies.
All right, Jethro Tull.
All right, Jethro Tull. Led Zeppelin.
Yep.
I'm sure you know Led Zeppelin.
Oh, sure.
Asked to perform. Their manager, Peter Grant, stated, "I said no because at Woodstock, we would have just been another band on the bill." And, because Led Zeppelin, I guess at that point, they wanted to be something
their own.
More than that.
To be their own entity.
Let's see. Who else might you know? Joni Mitchell.
Oh, I've heard of
Joni Mitchell, of course, yeah. She was slated to perform, but canceled at the urging of her manager to avoid missing a scheduled appearance on the Dick Cavett show.
Wow.
Dick
Cavett was big back then.
Mm-hmm. You got to weigh the options here. It's
what? Hindsight is 2020. Because at the time, they're just like, I don't know if I want to get together with all these things.
These people didn't necessarily know this was going to be that huge. The Moody Blues were included in the original Wallkill poster as performers, but they backed out after being booked in Paris the same weekend.
Oh, wow.
So rather than the mud in Woodstock, they did the croissants and the lovely crepes in Paris.
You can't really blame them, I guess.
Do you know who Procol Harum is?
Who?
Procol Harum, the band Procol. No,
Mm-mm.
I bet you know one of their songs.
Would I? I don't even know.
Yeah. Whiter Shade of Pale. You don't know that song, Jimmy?
I don't know.
Oh, come on.
It sounds nice.
You sure you don't know that song?
I'd probably have to listen to it longer.
Yeah, okay. Yes. So the Rascals were invited to play. You know the Rascals. Sure. They declined because they were in the middle of recording a new album, which is very important when you're recording a new album. That is your livelihood as a band. Yeah. Did you know that Roy Rogers was asked to close the festival? Asked to close the festivals. Wow. With the song Happy Trails. Happy Trails to you. But he declined. And I'm glad he did.
Yeah.
Because that would have taken away some legitimacy of the whole thing as being so serious and everything like that. They would have ended on that.
Yeah.
I'm glad that Jimi Hendrix.
Good. Jimi Hendrix. That was good.
The Rolling Stones were invited.
Wow.
But they declined because Mick Jagger was in Australia filming Ned Kelly. Oh. And Keith Richards' girlfriend had just given birth to their son, Marlon.
Wow.
So they were going to show up there.
Yeah.
Simon and Garfunkel declined because they were also working on a new album. And let's see, is there anybody else? This one person you probably wouldn't know. Frank Zappa.
I've heard of Frank Zappa.
Was then with the Mothers of Invention. And he said, "A lot of mud at Woodstock. We were invited to play there. We turned it down." Wow. So he probably did not want to be in the mud.
How about that?
So those are the folks who...
Did you say the Byrds also?
I might have mentioned the Byrds. Yes.
Oh, the Byrds. Oh,
no, did. Well, yeah. No, I might not have, but the Byrds. The Byrds. The Byrds.
Yeah.
Byrds. were invited, but chose not to participate, believing that Woodstock would be no different than no. I think I said that. That is just another music festival. What are you gonna do with that? Huh. But it wasn't. It wasn't 55 years ago today. If you're watching on premiere day,
little did they know they missed out on the biggest festival.
The biggest festival. Well, yeah.
Well, right
at the time.
At the time, we'll go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
what's the legacy of Woodstock, Jimmy?
So Woodstock officially ended on Monday, August 18th, after Jimi Hendrix left the stage.
That's right.
It wasn't that any easier to getting out of there than it was to get there. Roads and highways became quickly jammed as festival goers made their way home. Cleaning up the venue was a mammoth task, required several days, many bulldozers, and tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? And
again, at this point, no money really was made at this point because everybody kind of broke in and did their thing.
So were the bands paid then?
Although I have to think that there were pre-ticket sales, right? So some money was made.
Right.
Were the bands paid? I have to assume they were. And maybe if they weren't, would they have the foresight to show up and play and think, oh my goodness, this is going to be so huge someday. Like, 55 years from now, Sal and Jimmy are going to be talking on a special episode of the podcast.
You know what? Maybe they thought, oh, this is going to give me some exposure and people will get to know them and then want to buy their music.
There were bands that did not require the exposure, but,
they still came,
They still came.
Yep. And in 2006, the Bethel Woods Center for the Arts opened on the hill where the Woodstock Music Festival took place.
Yes.
And it hosts outdoor concerts in its beautiful pavilion. And there's also a 1960s museum on site. Go. And many popular musicians have played there, including some who took the stage at Woodstock. So you have Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, Santana, Arlo Guthrie, and Joe Cocker.
Yeah.
And Woodstock is perhaps best described by Max Yasker, who was the humble farmer who rented his land. Addressing the audience on day 3, he said, "You've proven something to the world. The important thing that you've proven to the world is that 500,000 kids, and I call you kids because I have children who are older than you, are 500,000 young people can get together and have 3 days of fun and music and have nothing but fun and music, and God bless you for it."
There you go. So that's probably can't do that anymore in today's world, which is kind of sad. I mean,
would have all ended up on social media.
Oh yeah, anyway. Just that plus just the way the world is now.
Yeah.
The Taylor Swift just had to cancel a performance because there was a terror threat and stuff like that, and you get all those people together. And nowadays, it's something different. But back then, it was special and. It was big and it is historic, and it is the 55th anniversary of that.
55 years.
Very good.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Jim, for coming back for another episode of
This Week in History.
And if you want to listen to older episodes of This Week in History, it's very simple to do, actually, because what you do is you go to our website, mcplpodcast.com. You click on a little icon on the top. It looks like a magnifying glass, and you type in "This Week in History." Hit enter, or click or tap on your phone, and you will see all the This Week in History episodes listed there that you can listen to. Or if you're on YouTube, hit the like button, hit subscribe. Don't forget to do that. We have great stuff coming up on this channel. But on YouTube, you click the search this channel. And then you just write it in there, This Week in History.
And we do have our History Bites.
We do have a History Bites.
That's on Woodstock. Which was probably from about 2 or 3 years ago, I think. Yeah. So definitely check that out.
And History Bites is a great feature that we also have on this channel, if you're a YouTuber watcher person. So definitely take advantage of all those things that we have here at the library. And of course, because we are a fabulous library, we have great books and DVDs all about Woodstock.
Yes, absolutely.
So you definitely want to come down and take a look and experience it. We have music from these artists. Like I said, we have the DVD documentary on Woodstock. Yep. We have books on Woodstock. So you definitely want to come down and check those out.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for joining us on this episode about Woodstock. And we hope that your rest of your day is filled with peace, love, and music. Right? Isn't that nice? That's a nice way to end it, but I'm not going to end it that way. I'm going to say, for Jim Ward, I'm Sal DiVincenzo, and we'll see you on the next show.